Hi, my name is Tiffany Daly. I am a corporate instructional designer at a large tech company. Before becoming an ID, I was a program manager. Despite being at a large company, my team is actually pretty small. There's only 5 of us. There's myself and another ID, and then 2 program managers and 1 LMS administrator. And because we are a lean team, we do wear a lot of hats. Our PMs are familiar with how to navigate Rise 360, our primary authoring tool, and then me and the other ID do take on a lot of program manager responsibilities within our projects, and sometimes help out our PMs as needed. And then our LMS admin really does a little bit of everything. She helps with the reporting, helps in Rise 360, and helps with other odds and ends as they come up. Our training primarily focuses on onboarding for talent acquisition. Talent acquisition is, recruiters, sourcers, recruiting coordinators, other roles that help facilitate that hiring process at companies. And again, our talent acquisition org really focuses on one key business lane, which helps us really identify the best onboarding training for each of these roles specific to the roles that they're hiring for. And our end goal is to create onboarding that really gets them ramped up for their roles as quickly and efficiently as possible. And currently we have 7 flagship onboarding learning paths, each with about 20 hours of seat time for our learners. And because of this and the fact that policies and processes change pretty frequently, we do have planned maintenance cycles at least annually, which kind of leads into what does my day look like as an instructional designer in corporate, which the big answer is obviously it varies significantly. But to give an idea, at any given time, I could be working on building out a new learning path, managing a maintenance cycle, which actually takes quite a bit of time given the size of our courses, and then writing or reviewing team documents and consulting with stakeholders that perhaps we're not building something out for, but we're providing consulting services. Additionally, because we are a lean team, me and the other ID also are responsible for graphic design, anything that we need to create for our courses, job aids, infographics. If we need animations for our courses, video editing, that is all on us as well, which is good and bad. For me, it gives me a lot of experience to do a little bit of everything, and I really love that creative aspect of my role. But it also means that sometimes we have to forego the fancy, flashy things like animations and really put the content of the course into text when time is not permitting. So that is something to kind of weigh against when you're looking at corporate roles. If you are interested in making a transition or going that direction, is some teams are built differently. There are other teams at my company where instructional designers don't do any of that creative aspect. They only create the learning paths, and then they have outsourced teams or team members who actually create that for them. In my role, I consider it a bonus that I get to do those as well. In terms of other things I might do in my role less commonly, that I'm really glad that I get to pull into my job is mentor other people at my company, whether they're instructional designers, program managers, which I mentioned I was previously, or just other roles in general. My team does open up that possibility of us to have those mentorship relationships across the company with other folks and help, raise each other up as we learn together. And then again, we do really work, my whole team really, PMs, IDs, all of us together, we do work on business strategy, our business reviews, our goals and initiatives. All of that is something that we all work together collectively on, which my PM skills kind of build into. I draw on those as I do that, but it's also something that I think really helps you give that big picture of where your training fits into everything from a higher perspective. Outside of all of that, our manager is also supportive of professional development. So last year I was able to go to a conference and I've done online training. idle with my support from my manager. And I think that's something that's pretty frequent across my org as well, that we all benefit from. And again, like helping each other, level up is just such a big, important part of our team culture and our org culture as well. Since becoming an instructional designer, making that jump from program manager to ID, my work life balance and how I feel day to day has really changed for the better. Again, having that ability to creatively, attack problems, and then even further, like graphic design, animation development, so on and so forth, has been really what I was missing in my previous role. But for people interested in L&D as a whole and looking into what that could entail for them, there are many roles within corporate. Instructional design is just one of them. You could be a program manager, an LMS admin, learning business partner. There's all sorts of things, and these roles might be under different titles at different companies, but depending on what your strengths are and what you're really looking to do each day, there's probably a good fit if that's the space you really want to go into. I encourage you to look through different job descriptions and find the one that matches the best for you. If you aren't interested in instructional design, keep in mind, especially at big companies, that the roles can vary from team to team. So maybe you see one that has, oh, this person does all the creative aspects, and that's not what you want to do. Keep looking, see if maybe there's another team that's looking more for just that creation of instruction, and vice versa. If you really want that creative aspect, read through the job descriptions, and then if you get that phone screen, if you get that interview, ask those questions of the hiring manager and make sure that's the right fit for you. And again, for me, I really wanted that creative aspect, and fortunately it was something I was able to get. But the corporate space is really neat because it does have that wide variety.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Pollard, and I'm an instructional designer. The company that I work for is part of the Fortune 500 and has roughly around 50,000 employees. Yeah, I design content for that many people. I will say, in this whole process of working for this company the last 4 months, I have learned so much. And on top of that, I am so grateful for the experience. And it's been kind of cool to say that you can actually create content for that many people to have their eyeballs and brains looking at what you are creating. A little bit about the department that I work for and the role that I'm in. So I am an instructional designer working in a team with other people that constitute a project manager, an assistant project manager. There's a couple of us that are instructional designers, but my partner is actually an LXD designer, so she has a little bit of a different role than I do. And then we also have a a senior learning director, as well as a UX researcher and a copy editor. And we have also brought in a couple other instructional designers as deadlines needed it. Within the team, we all play individual roles. I will say I was not given like a training manual or a onboarding type process to where I learned where I fit into this whole entire situation. So I've kind of had to learn a lot of that on the fly, which I'm finding out is pretty common in regards to what that looks like. Now, I will say my role is a contract role. And so I have been brought in for a certain amount of time, which initially was 3 months, and then they extended my contract for another month and a half. But in this whole entire process, it's pretty common to be dropped in and to just kind of learn things on the fly as far as like the culture and those unwritten things that come along the way. So, for example, I have had to learn what's the chain of command as far as like who do I talk to when it's time to talk to a certain subject matter expert, or if we have a problem meeting a deadline, how are we going to get that information to the subject matter? The stakeholder or whatnot. And actually, while I do use stakeholder and subject matter expert, or SME, interchangeably, because a lot of times the people that I'm working for are a little bit of both. So I do have SME meetings quite a bit, but when I'm actually speaking with them, you can tell that they actually have more of a stakeholder role. And that's because whatever the initiative is that we're working on, or whatever project that I have been tasked to create for, they are usually in charge of it. And so they're just as much on the line as our learning department. In regards to our learning department, it's actually a really big department. There are lots of instructional designers, lots of LXD and UX people, as well as learning directors, graphic designers, multimedia designers. Gosh, you name it, we seem to have it. And the one difference that I've noticed about working for a big company versus if I were, and like, for example, working for a smaller company is I have a person in between me and the stakeholder, and it's usually our learning director or our senior learning director, who will go and talk with the stakeholders about our progress and where we are and the concerns that they have, or the concerns that we have. She serves as a liaison on our team, which has been super helpful because it really gives me an opportunity to stay focused on my work. In regards to my day-to-day, there are no 2 days that are ever alike. Some days I have meetings all day and we're meeting and meeting and meeting about all the things that we're supposed to be doing. And then other days I have lots and lots of time to work on the things that we met about. So it really just depends from day to day and ebb and flow of the project life. For example, right now I'm attached to a major project where we had 3 sprints. And the first sprint, I only worked on 1 deliverable, but the second sprint, I worked on 4 deliverables, 2 of them, which were like big jobs, and 2 of them were a little bit smaller. And then this last sprint that we're in right now, I am actually working on 4 major projects. So it really just depends on what's going on in the life of that particular project or initiative, and what my role is in order for me to know exactly what is next or how my day is going to look. I am really lucky that I get to pace my days. A lot of times I'll start work around 8 o'clock in the morning, and I finish up 8 hours later. I'm a remote worker, so I get to do all my work from home with my dogs being my coworkers. But I absolutely meet a lot with my teammates and really make sure that we are on the same process together. We actually have we actually work in the Agile Scrum methodology, and I do meet regularly with the team in order for us to have status checkpoints with each other to let each other know what we're working on, what concerns we have. Our project manager sometimes has to go chase down people. For example, if we have a SME that is not responding or whatnot, she helps chase that down. My senior learning director also chases that down. But I will be honest, the company that I work for, the SMEs are all bought in. They really are happy with their role with us. So they take on ownership just as much as we do, which has been fabulous. I have not had to chase down a SME, which has been great. In regards to also what I do on a daily basis, I have a lot of deep think and creative time to work through any of the deliverables that we're working on. It's been great because I have had that opportunity to really think creatively and execute accordingly because, there's not people popping in the office, right by my office in order to be like, hey, while you're here, or hey, do you have a minute? I don't get that a whole lot. I get it a little bit, but, there are times we have impromptu meetings, but they're few and far in between for this company. And it's just kind of part of their culture that meetings need to be kept to a minimum in order for people to have time to do the work that they have been tasked to do. So that has been awesome. In regards to my role with this company, as I mentioned, I am a contractor. And the reason why I bring that up is because I have a contract that is roughly about 4.5 months. And then they are going to have to let me go. My team has actually told me that they love me so much that they have referred me for full-time positions, or to be considered for full-time positions. And that has been really validating that I'm on the right track with them. and that I would be a good fit for this company. To have a contract role is pretty common as far as when you're jumping into instructional design work. And also, it's common for freelancing. So, depending on if this is something that you really feel is good for you, the whole entire process of actually having a sample, if you will, of what it's like to work for this company is really advantageous because you really get a good feel and a know of the people and the content as well as the company culture in order for you to really understand would that be a good fit. In this particular role, I have found that this is a good fit for me. And so I have applied for those jobs, and my fingers are crossed that I will be considered for one of those roles in order to continue to work for the company that I started with. To other tasks that I do weekly, monthly, or less sporadically, I would say involve more of like my accessibility standards pieces that I need to add. I do at the end of each project do work on closed captioning and just anything accessibility in general, whether it's color, whether it's font size, making sure that screen readers can read any of the text. I do keep this in mind while I'm designing and developing. However, some things get missed along the way. So that's one thing that I do have to do periodically. Another thing that's done periodically is to check in with our UX researcher because they are actually interviewing the learners after they have gone through whatever deliverable or course that we have put out there in the LMS. And they are awesome because they actually make everything come full circle and let you know, how did you do? I will say I have actually received good ratings on the courses that I've worked on so far. There's a lot of it that's still in motion that I don't know about yet. But I will say the courses that I have heard about have been a lot of good feedback, and I've been so excited about that. And it's been wonderful to hear that I'm making an impact or I'm making a difference with the behavioral trainings that we're making. So anything to, or well, really just to kind of wrap this up, anything that I do on a regular basis really is all in on making sure that we are creating the best learning experience possible for our employees, whether it's for a short few of those 50,000 or whether it's enterprise wide for everyone. We're always concerned to make sure that the learning that we are creating has the end goal in mind of making the most impact to the user. And that is my day in the life of an instructional designer. I hope you have found this helpful.